Is Darius Acuff Jr. out of Arkansas a fit in Dallas? Is he a little bit underrated right now, or maybe even overrated? On today's One More Thing of Locked On Mavs. You are locked on the Dallas Mavericks. This is one of your hosts, Isaac Harris, covering the Mavs for the last 10 years alongside my good friend, Nick Angstead. Thanks for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcasting network out there. And today I'm talking about Darius Acuff Jr. out of Arkansas. It is draft season. When you are a team that is prioritizing the ping pong balls in the month of February, then draft season starts early. And that's kind of where we're at with Dallas, right? Like we're all tracking Tankathon for Dallas. When you have a team that's going to have a top 10 draft pick, most likely. And for Dallas, you know, this whole conversation, I love the NBA draft. We've done multiple podcasts already. We're going to do so many more podcasts before the draft lottery and then after the draft lottery too. For Dallas, you know, we've said this a lot, but it is a loaded draft up top. I think a lot of those guys would fit great in Dallas if you move up. But even if you stay where you are and you don't move up and you're in that 6, 7, 8, 9 range, somewhere through there, Dallas is in need of backcourt help. They're in need of some more playmakers and creators and guards moving forward in the future. And man, this is a draft to kind of be in that range for it, because there are a handful of guards through there that everybody has a different order on, right? Like depending on which draft people that are way smarter than I am with the draft, that cover the draft year round, 100%, and watch these guys. And we have no ceilings, that's here at Locked On. And I love the work of Sam Vecini and, Rafael Barlow, who now works for the Mavs. So we don't get his takes and stuff anymore publicly, but everybody has these guards in a different order right now, and it changes throughout the weeks. Whether you're a Keaton Wagler guy or a Mikel Brown guy out of Louisville, or maybe a LeBaron Philon out of Alabama, or Darius Acuff out of Arkansas. Just my little personal journey with these guys. Wagler, for like a lot of people, came out of nowhere for me, just because, it's kind of like a 1 year type of thing, a rise. So I was kind of late to the game with Wagler. I've been a Mikel Brown guy for a while, back before he even got to Louisville. You need to go back and watch some of those U18 stuff. It's like him and DeBonsa and Koa Pete and I think Morris Johnson's on that team, but those are some fun games to watch and stuff back then. But one of the guys that I was how do I like form an opinion on is Darius Akuff Jr. And, when you look at, I'm from Kentucky, so John Calipari for a long time in Kentucky was like the main guy. All right. Like whatever Calipari did. I mean, when Anthony Davis was there, and there's so many great Kentucky teams through there, but he had these guards throughout that would come through Kentucky, and you're like, oh, dang, they got another guard. Even like a guy like SGA, when he got to Kentucky, and even when he went to the draft, is like, oh, it's kind of hard to like project what SGA is going to be, but he has this history with these great guards, from John Wall to, you could even go before Kentucky with Derrick Rose, but you can go John Wall and Tyrese Maxey, like you can just keep on going. And then he gets, Calipari's at Arkansas, and he gets this guard in, and you start hearing some of the rumblings of like, oh, this is the next guard. This is his next guy that's going to be in the league. And you hear about Darius Akuff Jr. And so I was like, all right. So I kind of formed an opinion on him, like just briefly watching some stuff here and there. But over the past like 2 to 3 weeks, I was like, all right, I really want to hone in on Akuff Jr. because I don't feel like I've given him like a fair, just time commitment of like, I want to form a good opinion on him. And I came away thinking, I think he's really underrated at this point. Now, I say really underrated because I think the way some people talk about Darius Akuff right now is that he is Frodo Baggins, and he is like, hey, he's suiting up for the Baggins team in the Shire, and he's going to battle. All right. And he is not that small. So I'm going to get into that, but Darius Akuff Jr., He's a point guard at Arkansas. He is listed at 6'3", 6'2", a few different spots from that you look around, but 6'2", 6'3", he's 19 years old. Wingspan around that 6'6" wingspan, 6'7" wingspan. So it's like a +4, +5 inch wingspan from the height there. He's from Detroit. He goes to Arkansas, and he is the best pure point guard of this class. When you start looking at and when you watch the games with him and watch how he runs a team as like a floor general, he has that like it factor. Now I'll talk about some weaknesses and definitely some of the pros, but when you watch him and his feel for the game and how he runs the team and some of the vision stuff that he has and some of the passing and just how he orchestrates all the pieces on the floor, it's really dang impressive. The biggest conversation around him goes to his size, right? He is 6'3", like I said, 6'2", somewhere through there. And when you start looking, I think it was Jonathan Wasserman who said in one of his previous mock drafts, he says there's not many success stories of his measurements and the low rebound, steal, block rates in which he has. Because he is not great on the defensive end. And it's not just because, hey, he's small out there and he's getting targeted. It's not that. The effort's there. There's some inconsistent stuff out there. Do I think that he is going to be the next Drew Holiday? No. Do I also think that he is going to always be, do I also think he's going to be Trae Young on defense for his whole career? I don't think that either. Because he is bigger than Trae. He is stockier than Trae. He is more built than Trae. So I think there's a way to talk about Acuff and his weaknesses and realize that there is probably an in-between spot of you're not going to be Trae Young in defense, but you're not going to be Drew Holiday at the same time. Some of the pros with him, when you look at some of the downhill scoring that he has when he gets out in transition, how he can contort his body around the rim for his size and how he can get into the paint. I think that is something crucial for a creator, for an initiator on offense, is you got to be able to get into the paint. You got to touch the paint. I mean, you hear that phrase a lot. Man, he touches the paint. He wants to touch the paint. He wants to get 2 feet in the paint, because once you touch the paint, right, you can have the ability to hit the floater. You can have that mid-range there, or what most likely happen, you draw another defender in, and then you have the vision to kick it out and hit the open shooter. And that's where, I mean, he is such a fun watch, a joy to watch on offense, because he can touch the paint. He's got the touch in the paint. He can hit the floater. He can hit the mid-range shot. But then he has the vision and the passing. I mean, some of the lobs and some of the passes stuff he pulls off, I'm like, man, it's like for his age, and even the offhand passing too, some of the left-hand passing, as far as orchestrating and running an offense, I walked away so impressed by that. Some of the scoring and playmaking. I mean, you guys, a lot of you guys probably seen the highlights or maybe even watch. I enjoyed watching that full game against Alabama, him and LeBaron Philon going off. It goes in overtime. That's the game Acuff puts up 49 points in that game. That was the thing that when I heard about him before, it's like you hear about this point guard who could like run the system, this floor general stuff. But I'm like, is he going to be able to like score at that? I mean, come on. I mean, the shots there, he's a 3-level scorer. When you start looking at some of his shot charts of, I think he's shooting like 60% at the rim right now. So for a lot of the, hey, I don't want a small guard type of thing, and I'm going to talk about some of the guards and the size thing in just a second. A lot of times when you talk about I don't want a small guard, it's like, hey, he's going to get targeted on defense. I get it. Is he big enough? Is he going to get just towered over in the paint? And like right now, yes, he's going to face more size in the NBA, but like he's showing that he can get into the paint and find the right pass, but also score in the paint too at that 60% clip. And some of the ways he can pull off some of these shots. I have a comp for him. I'm going to talk about in just a little bit that I feel it's the kind of the most like comfortable route I'm like headed down after watching him. But it all comes back to his size. I feel like right now the dominant conversation which is hard to find nuance in draft prospect conversations right now. I mean, it's just kind of like where we're at in our world and social media too, of like, oh, okay, I like Darren Peterson. Oh, cool. You like somebody who doesn't like to play basketball. I'm like, okay. And it's like, oh, you like Darius Acuff. Oh, cool. You don't know ball because a small, tiny point guard out there isn't going to work. And it's like, okay, well, and then you could do this with all these different prospects. So let's take a quick break, and I want to come back and I want to talk about some other players that are same size as him, and some other quotes and some things I like, how he fit in Dallas, and if I would take him if I was Dallas, setting at 7. This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. And listeners to this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire this job. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. This podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. If you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn the dream into a reality with the NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on an NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered to a shot to win the NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Shut it down! Oh, no! Let's go home!
All right, I'm talking about Darius Acuff Jr. At Arkansas, point guard. That's kind of polarizing for some people to figure out what he's going to be at the next level. And I think a lot of people agree that, man, he's an incredible point guard. He's an incredible floor general. He can score the bucket. He can get everybody involved and all the things what you want in a point guard. But a lot of people come back to his size and say, hey, I think he's too small to play in the NBA. I want to emphasize this. He is not 6 foot. All right. This is going to come across like I'm just like Acuff's like number one guy. Wow. I'm not saying he is my number one guy at all, but I think some of the size, height stuff is a little bit, is getting a little bit overrated. Some because he's 6'3", 6'2". Let's look at a few of the players in the NBA that's listed around there. 6'2". Let's just look at some of the bigger names. According to NBA.com, some players that are 6'2". Jalen Brunson, Ja Morant, Reed Shepherd, Steph Curry, Trae Young, Tyrese Maxey. And you're like, Isaac, yes, Trae Young, I see it. I see the problems out there. Is everybody saying that with Jalen Brunson? That is we're talking about a Knicks team that's went far in the playoffs. He's making a lot of money. Is everybody saying that with Tyrese Maxey? Like if the Mavericks traded for Tyrese Maxey right now, or if Tyrese Maxey, a trade for Maxey was on the board, would you say right now, I don't know, he's small? And I'm saying like, I think it's very valid if you are in that camp, but I don't feel like you hear the size part of Tyrese Maxey talked about too much, right? Even that's 6'2", go up to 6'3". CJ McCollum, Kaysen Wallace, De'Aaron Fox, Marcus Smart. I don't hear that conversation about De'Aaron Fox a ton about, man, he's just too small. Now, obviously they have Wemby in San Antonio and some of the different pieces around them. I give you those names to say it's not impossible to have good teams around a guy that's 6'3" or 6'2", if you want to say that. He is not 6 foot. I think some people are starting or have begun to shift that conversation about Acuff to where he is like 6 foot. And that's and on top of that, not only is he not 6 foot, the dude is built. like he's kind of low key jacked for a point guard out there. He has kind of that thicker frame to where he can hold his ground. Now, once again, I think there are some criticisms there because I don't think he's locked in defensively all the time. I think he has defensive lapses a decent amount of times. I think there's times, there's just times I want him to try more on the defensive end. Like, I think those things are very valid. And I do think there are some bigger players that will take advantage of how that he is 6'3" and not 6'6". So I think there are some valid points with it, but I think it's a little overrated that, like, hey, people are talking about him like, you know, he's going on the long journey with Frodo and Sam, and that's not how I see him. When you look at some of the other things out there, I was looking at some of these quotes I wanted to throw out there. ESPN said this. They said these are reservations. There are reservations around the league about his archetype as a smaller ball dominant lead guard who is a one position defender, which often comes with roster building downside. I get that, right? Like, if you are going to have a Darius Akuff at 6'2" or 6'3", and this is something I put in here that I'll go ahead and talk about now. Whoever drafts Akuff, you got to give him the keys. You got to let him run the offense, right? Not whether that's now or whether that's in a year or two. The goal for having Darius Akuff is to come in and say, hey, we want you to run the show because you're that good. You can run the show and orchestrate an offense, but also like get buckets at the same time. And then there are some type of limitations with roster building, right? Like, you can't, I don't think it's a smart move. Like, if you're Utah and you have a Keontae George, I don't think it's a smart move to say, hey, we want to form a pairing of Keontae George and Darius Akuff for the future. I don't think that's personally super smart, right? Like, I'm not looking at it if I'm Chicago and saying, hey, Josh Giddey, Darius Akuff, sign me up. I'm not doing that because I think Josh Giddey has to have the ball in his hands and run the offense as a ball dominant point guard. He's bigger, but it's still that ball dominant role. I think Darius Akuff needs to have the ball in his hands. Not saying that he can't play off the ball, but once again, I think he will excel the most if he is like running his own system. Like, if Washington came in and said, hey, we're not going to commit to Trae Young. We are going to commit to Darius Acuff Jr. and saying, hey, you run the show in here. I think that would make sense. Or if Memphis trades Ja and they're like, hey, this is the replacement there. Or if Milwaukee, if Milwaukee looks at it and says, hey, come run the point guard spot there. Like, I think there are some natural things there that I think he should be a ball, like that ball dominant point guard. Ball dominant. I don't like running the show as far as having the keys to the system there. When you look at some of the other things about him, at Synergy, Akuff is hitting just under 54% of his open catch and shoot 3-pointers on the season. If he's going to play off of somebody like a Cooper Flagg or whoever it is, at times, to where, like, yes, he might not run every single play for a team, but if he goes to a team like Dallas and it's like, hey, you're gonna bring the ball up the floor all the time, but then we're gonna run sets and Cooper's gonna have the ball, you at least got to be able to hit the outside shot. He's showing that this year. His shot, I mean, he's shooting the ball really, really well. 54% on those catch and shoot open 3-pointers. When you also look at him creating shots, when you look at Synergy, this is coming from our friends over at No Ceilings. They said he ranks in the 71st percentile in dribble jumpers, shooting almost 39% on the dribble jumper 3-pointers, meaning that he can create and then just pop up off the dribble and drain a 3 in your face. And he's in the 71st percentile in that. No Ceilings has a great article on Darius Akuff right now that I'm pulling these stats from right here. And then they also said in that he's taken 32% of his shots at the rim. That's more than Mikel Brown. That's right around the same amount as Kingston Fleming's. This piece came out like a week or so ago, showing you that, hey, once again, one of the concerns about having a air quote smaller type of guard is, can he even finish at the rim? Is he going to have to settle for things? 32% of his shots are at the rim. That's showing you that even at his size at 6'2", 6'3", he can get to the rim and he can score. Sam Vicini says this: the most important part of Acuff's game has been the way that he gets into the paint. Acuff's ability in both ball screens and isolation switch situations has been extremely impressive, and he showcased a high-level floater game that should be translatable to the NBA. Once again, he can touch the paint, whether it's self-creation or in the pick and roll, and he has that floater game already. So 2 things for me. Why is he not Colin Sexton? Why is he not bigger Chris Paul? I think those are the things, the other sides of it, right? It's like, why is he like, Isaac, you're describing Colin Sexton when he was at Alabama. And it's like, no, I think he's better than Colin Sexton. You also could be saying, okay, well, why is he not like bigger Chris Paul? Because that's the comp that, like, I know it's almost blasphemous to say, like, hey, seriously, you're calling him Chris Paul. Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards of all time. I don't think he is Chris Paul, but there are a lot of traits about Chris Paul that when you look at Darius Acuff that you could look at and say, hey, he plays the game a lot like, I know Steph Marbury and Allen Iverson is like, has mentioned before the Marbury comp. A lot of people like the Marbury comp for him at times. But man, some of his playmaking stuff and some of his floor general things reminds me of a young Chris Paul, but he's bigger. And Chris Paul got buckets, and Darius Acuff, he has a few dunks and stuff, but it's not like he's Spud Webb out there, right? So Chris Paul obviously wasn't playing above the rim either. They remind me, their styles and how talented they are at the vision and passing and being a floor general out there. It does remind me a little bit of each other. The it factor, like I talk about, man, some of these big games and these clutch moments. So I think, a lot of people are probably like, man, you're all about Acuff. It's not that I'm all about Acuff. It's just, I think I put him in a box before. And now after spending more and more time with him, I come away from games saying, why am I overthinking him? Like, I get that he is in a perfect world. You wish that he had that skill set and everything about Acuff, but in Keaton Wagler's like frame or like height at 6'6", and I wouldn't say frame because Wagler is like, I think, really skinny. But if like, could you take, combine those two guys? We like to do the combination. I come away more impressed with Acuff and how he runs the system. So can he work in Dallas? I think this is one of the more important questions. I think he can work in Dallas if you put plus size around him and you put the ball in his hands. So now I kind of get it. Like, you have Kyrie Irving. And if, Kyrie Irving's, if that's the goal and the plan, Kyrie's coming back, I would not go into next season saying I'm going to have both of these guys as like the starting 1 and starting 2 on my team, because I think if you have Kyrie out there, you got to have other size around him on the floor. But if they took Acuff and said, hey, he's going to come off the bench as like a 6-man guy, he's going to learn from Kyrie this year, that's the type of role that I would want for him. I wouldn't want them as the starting duo in that. And then if you do commit to Acuff as your long-term starting point guard alongside Cooper Flagg, then I think it just brings more emphasis on the positional size that you need in the other positions, right? Like, if you are going to have that, it's kind of like if you have a rim rolling center and you have like a Derek Lively on the floor that's not hitting threes, then you got to have 4 other shooters on the floor, because it's kind of really difficult right now to have more than one non-shooter on the floor. So with Acuff, it's kind of difficult to have 2 small people on the floor. So you got to have, prioritize the positional size at the other spots too, and a point of attack defender at that 2 spot too. Do I think him and Cooper Flagg could work together? Absolutely. And I think it could be nasty. Like, I really do. If you have the right pieces around them, I think those two could work really, really well together. But I think you have to commit to Acuff being like, hey, we want you to, like, you got to put the ball in his hands, and you got to, and not, once again, it doesn't mean that Acuff's going to shoot the ball 30 times a game, but you got to put the ball in his hands and say, hey, can you be our bigger Chris Paul and set up guys like Cooper Flagg and score and stuff at times, but also this is Cooper's team. And I think that would work pretty dang well. And it'd be cool to see him learn alongside Kyrie Irving. So he has his flaws, right? Like, I think when you look at the other guys, you look at like a Mikel Brown. I think Mikel Brown personally has the highest upside out of these guys because he has a 6'5" frame. He's playing on the wing. He could play both 1 and 2. And some of the athleticism, some of the outside shoot, like the highest upside. I think Acuff, you could argue that he's the safest pick, maybe higher floor than a Mikel Brown. And then Wagler is like the X factor for me of like, he's 6'6", an incredible shooter. I have some other like concerns about some of it, like just the frame and some of the other stuff, but he's incredible too. Lebaron Philon, I like him a lot too. Like, I don't think you can go wrong with any of these guys. So, but Acuff is the one that I think has become a little bit underrated, and I think he's got the it factor. So I don't know right now where I would have him of like, oh, you have him over this guard right there through there. But I will say this, I have consistently put him at the back end of those lists. Or had him closer to like 10 in those like, hey, top 10 prospects. And that's not the case anymore, because I think if he goes to a team that a team says for the long term, we want you to be our floor general, orchestrate our offense and run our team and be our bigger version of Chris Paul, then I think he's really going to excel and have a long, successful career in the NBA. So that's my thoughts on Acuff. He's fun to watch, man. If you get a chance to watch Arkansas, man, he's a blast to watch, and he's playing really, really good basketball right now. Splits at what, 50, 44, 80 right now, 50% from the floor at 6'2", 6'3", while 32% of those shots at the rim as a guard, 44% from three, pretty dang impressive, 80% from the free throw line. Yeah, man, he's impressed me a lot, and yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes from there. And I think he would be a good fit in Dallas and a good tutor under Kyrie Irving for a year or so. We'll be back with another episode later on today. Peace out. Boom.